Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends, and welcome to my channel. Well, in this episode of a series of 5 that are being dedicated to the Fountain Pen Therapy 2023 Annual Pen Awards, we'll be looking at the category of the Best Classic Black Pen. And here are the nominees. Okay, we're back. So we will be looking at for this particular award, which is the black or classic black pen, we'll be looking at 10 nominees. I'm going to start with number 10 on my list and work myself up to the winner, if you will. So the first one on my list, number 10, is this pen. Just going to get you to take a look at it for just a few seconds, just to see if you could surmise or recognize it, if you've ever seen it. I'm giving it away because the name is right there. It's a Vazir. This is the Vazir black model, torpedo shape. It's not the flat top. An Indian company, and I've got to tell you, it's a very simple design, a simple acrylic, nothing fancy. Clip is nice, functional, nice large pen, and as some of you may know if you've seen my other videos, I enjoy larger pens. It fits really, really nicely in the hand, smooth finishing. Like I said, nothing too complex. It's got a nice nib, as you can see. It's a Vazir Bold. They make their own nibs. Nothing to write home about. But on the other hand, writes very well, constant, smooth. It's a Bold. They don't have stub, and you know that my favorite nibs are stub. Again, I think this is a very functional, slick, and simply designed black classic shaped pen. Number 10. Let's look at my number 9. So, number 9 on my list. Wow. This looks familiar, does it not? In fact, it should remind you of another pen that we will be looking at sometime in just in a few seconds. Yes, this is, however, it's not that pen. This one is the Jinhao X159. Now, these are the new Jinhaos in the sense that they are not, I have older models that were made out of steel and very heavy. Not the greatest pens in the world. The nibs weren't that sharp either. This one's made out of acrylic, and you can see that the Jinhao name is inscribed around the band. Very functional clip. It's got one ring at both ends, which is a familiar styling. And if you take a look at the nib, the Jinhao nibs, I've got to tell you, are becoming more and more very usable, very nice nib. This one is a fine. Unfortunately, I think that the best you can get with Jinhao is fine. I don't even think they make mediums. So again, not my favorite sized nib, but having said that, it doesn't take away from the fact that they are a very nice nib. It's got the Jinhao logo embossed on the nib. So you know what? Very nice sized pen. From the larger sizes, it does post very, very, very nicely. So as you can see, very nice, slick, not unique, but very simple styling. Seen it before, unfortunately, but I think it deserved my number 9. Very functional. For my number 8, I go back to the older days. This is my vintage Waterman. I felt that I needed to find a spot for this pen. As you can see, it's a little bit worn down over the years. I've had this since, oh my God, probably my early college years. It's kind of worn down. It shakes all over the place, but it is a classic. And the nib is a softer type nib, and it writes really, really nicely. So I felt just nostalgic, and I think that any black classic collection should have this Waterman highlighted. So there you go. That's my number 8. Next on my list, I have the Montegrappa Fortuna. Now, a few words about Montegrappa. Unfortunately, they're not my favorite pen manufacturers. Several people would say that Montegrappa is the Mont Blanc of Italy. As far as I'm concerned, Mont Blanc is overrated and overpriced. So I guess I have the same feelings about, unfortunately, Montegrappa. Don't get me wrong. They have some wonderful, exquisite pens. I mean, very elaborate, all kinds of motifs and homages to all kinds of events, people, etc., etc., but just extremely overpriced. They just price themselves right out of the market. I just can't afford them. The only one that I thought I could afford and I would give any my money to is this Fortuna. And as you can see, you can get simpler than this Fortuna. Very simple, smallish, torpedo shaped, not elaborate at all. It's got the clip, very functional clip, classic black piano black. And this one I could afford. I got to say that I really like their nibs, though. Their nibs, look how elaborate these nibs are. Very, very nice. You got the Montegrappa logo and the very elaborate embossing of typical, which is the Montegrappa intellectual property, if you will. That's their design. You can recognize their nibs that way. And very, very nice. Good shaped, well manufactured, no doubt. I just think that even this one is just, I paid it over $200, and look, there's not much to it. It's just, for me, it's overpriced. But Montegrappa deserves a place on my list. So that's my Montegrappa. Next on my list is this Visconti. This is a Visconti Van Goh. Now, some of you might say, well, that's not really black, is it? Well, no, it isn't. It's more of a bluish black. But I thought I'd put it on my list just because it is a Visconti. And I don't have that many Viscontis. My problem with Visconti pens are their nibs. And I think I will have the opportunity to review a few and I'll give you more of my comments and detail them. I just have had so many problems with their nibs. Constantly fine-tuning them. They're constantly drying up. It's just too bad. So they're not amongst my favorite go-to pens. But this one particular, I like the blue. I like the blue resin on this pen. Their nibs are unique. Their clips are unique. None like Visconti. They're very, very nice clips. You've got elaborate band here. You've got the Visconti tops, which you could remove and replace. So you got the two finials. It is a magnetic sort of closure. It's not a screw in nor a snap. It snaps closed through magnets. I got to tell you, it loosens up once in a while and it opens up on me. Not the greatest mechanism, but it is unique. In this pen, I have the black Visconti number 6 nib. This one here, I fine-tuned and fine-tuned and fine-tuned, and finally, I managed to get it to my taste. So it writes fairly nice, very smooth. It's not a stub. I believe it's a bold, but it really writes very nicely now. So there you go. That's my Visconti blue black, if you will, but it made my list. Now we're getting closer to what I would say are top ranges of my tastes. Here's my Nettuno 1911. And for those of you who saw the review, or I believe the review is coming up soon, this is just an exquisite pen, well designed. I like the matte finish, the black matte on this. Look at the elaborate clip with the Nettuno pitchfork, if you will, the design, the water wave at the end. very elaborate bands. I mean, this, I think the only drawback to this pen and why maybe it doesn't unfortunately form part of my go-to pens on a day-to-day basis is that it's a little small. It's just a little touch too small for my taste, but that's just personal. Um, the nib is just very nice. It's a Joe nib. This one's a stub. It has the N inscribed on it, N for Nettuno, which is their trademark. Look at that pen. Isn't that exquisite? You see the Nettuno, it's 244 out of 350, so it's a limited edition, the THERPAY limited edition. I think this is just an absolutely, absolutely exquisite pen, and proud to have it in my collection. So it definitely makes forms, definitely belongs there. That's my Nettuno 1911. Well, moving up, and we're getting closer to the last three. So this one, talk about 1911. Well, this is another 1911. It's a Sailor 1911. If my Nettuno is in the small side, this one's even slightly smaller, unfortunately. On all fairness to Sailor, they have a bigger and much larger version. As we all know, those are just a little bit out of my price range. But I did have to have in my collection a Sailor, just because they are phenomenal pens. And this Sailor 1911 just does the job, even though it's on the small side. Take a look at the gold band, classic design. The 22 karat nib is just phenomenal, soft as butter. Even I can write with this one, even though it's on the thinner side. I just, every time I ink this pen, I enjoy it. It is on the smaller side, but it gets me, when you have to write those in smaller places, as they say, or smaller spaces, this is just perfect. I just find it a little bit too small for my taste, but, Sailor can't go wrong. Fine writing instrument. Okay, so now we're down to my top three. And third in my top three is this pen. This one can almost be categorized as a vintage pen. It's my Aurora 88. Aurora 88 hasn't changed much in terms of its shape and design. So even though it's vintage because it's probably 20, 30 years old, it's still very classic. Take a look at that nice clip. It's got a beautiful band with the Aurora, embossed in it. Very nice. Again, classic black design that we've seen. In terms of a nib, if you need a soft nib, take a look at this nib. Nice gold nib. But look at that point. I just can't write with pens like that. That's almost extra fine. But it does have a little flex when you write with it, so it's enjoyable just because of that flex, and that flex kind of gives you a little bit of line variation. If you don't want to spring it, you don't want to ruin it, but it is look at the embossing on it. It's just very elaborate embossing on that nib, unique, in-house. So this Aurora, even though it's got a few years, definitely belongs on my list. Definitely belongs on the list. So that's my number 3 on my list. Number 2 on my list, and we're getting closer and closer to the winner, is this. This is my Delta Lex. For those of you who've had the chance to see my review, is one of my first reviews on this channel. Delta Lex, it pays homage to my profession, which is the legal profession, and it's one of my go-to pens. You've got the Delta logo embossed or engraved at the top. Nice finial, very nice Greek motif band, and what can I say about this clip? You see the scales of justice there. It's got the Delta rotating tip here that facilitates the use of the clip. In terms of the heftiness, nice size pen, one of my larger sized ones in my collection. The nib is that unique you know, intellectual property belonging to Delta for this fusion nib where you have a mixture of gold and steel. This is a stub, as you could see. Writes just smoothly, very, very, very nice, nice sized. Can be posted, of course. In fact, there's a screwing mechanism here that allows you to post it, and you'll be able to get all the details in my detailed review of this pen. But this is among my favorite, and everyday writers, if you will. It's often in my top 10. And this brings me to my final and number one choice. So for 2023, the Fountain Pen Therapy Classic Black Award goes to... Well, here it is, folks. I say reluctantly because, as I mentioned, Mont Blanc is not my favorite, but how can you not give this award to this pen? It's been around for ages. It's the Mont Blanc 149. Despite all my criticism of this pen manufacturer, I do cherish this pen. It brings back a lot of memories. It's a pen that I received from my wife, and I will cherish it forever. It's just talk about a nice, big, chunky pen. And, this raises eyebrows whenever we use it at a meeting or at a closing, where you pass this pen on to your client for him to sign his multi-million-dollar contract. It just, it gives it that taste. The beautiful logo, nice gold trimmings, the Mont Blanc inscribed on the ring here. And what can I say? It does have this beautiful nib, 18 karat nib. You can't say much about it. It writes really, really nicely. This, I believe, is a bold. So it's getting, they don't have stubs, unfortunately. If this thing had a stub in it, I would use it every day. It's just, it brings back too many nice memories. And because of the sentimental value of this pen, I cherish it. And you know what? It takes the award. So for me, I think it'd be very difficult not to give the 2023 Fountain Pen Therapy Classic Black Pen Award to anyone else other than this Mont Blanc 149. So there you have it. And just so that we can look at them all together, here they are, the 10 nominees, and with my winner being the top one. So I hope you enjoyed this first series in a series of 5, where we'll be going over all the pen awards for 2023. Please subscribe. If you have any comments, please, don't hesitate. Send them to me. They're always well appreciated, negative or positive. If I can prove anything, if I've made any errors, if you have your opinions are always welcomed. And this is a great pen community, and we like to share our thoughts. So please don't hesitate. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for the next awards.